Good morning to all of our agents from Spokane, Washington to Portland, Maine to Tampa, Florida, back here to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good morning. Welcome to Near and Far. I got Josh Smith with me here this morning. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, and it's weird shooting on a Friday morning because typically we're always releasing new episodes Tuesday, Thursday. I was a little under the weather yesterday, but I'm feeling great, ready to go today.
Back and in control.
Yeah, it was interesting. I got a phone call from Brent Ehlers out at Premier, who obviously runs their shop out there, and we were just kind of talking, and he said, "Well, what are you doing at home today?" And I said, quite honestly, like if this was a non-COVID environment, I would have been in the office yesterday.
Right.
But it's one of those things where if you even just get the littlest bit of something, you just stay home just to be sure.
Exactly. How's Brent doing? I haven't heard from him in a while.
He's doing really well. Good. Yeah, they had a really strong enrollment season. That the team out of Premier, really good group. They do a great job with their agents, but he's doing the same thing we are. Just kind of helping agents with did my app get processed? I don't see it on the portal. Planning for next year, those types of things. So he's doing well.
Good.
Yeah. Well, hey, wanted to chat with you a little bit this morning, if only because I don't know if you've been getting these calls, but I know that I have, and I don't want to say that I've been horrified, but there's been like a number of calls I've gotten on OEP, which obviously starts January 1st, where I'm getting questions on, a lot of people call it the change period.
Yeah, sure.
And just the misinformation that agents seem to have, are you getting those calls? Do you feel like all of your agents are totally dialed in to OEP, or do you feel like there's elements of it that agents just aren't getting?
I haven't had any horror stories in which that I've been absolutely scared to be on the phone with the agent, but I've certainly had some refresher calls that I've gone over OEP with them. The standard rules and practices, OEP is not the same as AEP. There are its own rules and resources that you need to know and familiarize yourself as an agent when we start heading into January through March. But yeah, there's some very particular rule sets that are at play in OEP that I've been reminding agents. Basically, like the biggest thing is, no, you can't switch from a PDP to another PDP during the open enrollment period. It is the Medicare Advantage open enrollment period.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of toss something up here in just a minute, but who I think has the biggest problem with the OEP? It's not the new agents. It's the experienced agents. It kind of makes a little bit of sense because our agents who've been doing this for 6, 8, 12 years, they're remembering the guidelines from the old OEP,
2011.
Yeah, prior, and I think that's the issue, because the things that you can do in the OEP as it's currently constructed are different than it was back in the day. So if you get in the DeLorean and you jack up the flux capacitor and go back to the old OEP, be like, wait, these aren't the rules.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I think has to do with PDP. But Ryan, do we have those slides? Let's toss up the first one. So wanted to talk through specifically with all of you, just as a back to basics refresher course on OEP and what you can do and can't do. So the first thing is, in order to utilize the OEP, you have to be enrolled in an MA plan. And that could be MA only, like on the last episode of Know It All, Rob and Kristen were here talking about veterans and their care and utilizing MA only. So you can have an MA only, you can have an MAPD. Here's what's different about the way the OEP used to work, because the old rule used to be, if you have drug coverage, you can't get rid of it. If you don't have drug coverage, you can't get it.
Right.
But interestingly enough, when you read through the guidelines, if, let's say you're sitting out there and you're on an MA only product, and all of a sudden something happens in February and you're like, oh man, I need drug coverage. You can move to an MAPD. And that didn't used to be the case.
Right.
That's kind of what I mean. Like when you think about the agents who've been doing this for a long time, that MA is their business, they've been operating in it for a long period of time. When the OEP came back, it was like, it was like, oh, the rules are kind of changed. It's calling the same thing, but the rules are a little different.
For sure. And it's always important to make sure that you are on the current rule set because, as things, I don't think anything's really changed from last year to this year, but like you said, things have dramatically changed from when the old OEP used to be around till this year.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you are on an MAPD product, and let's say, for example, that you've just decided, I want to move to a Med Sup. Like if you're able to be underwritten, you can go ahead and do that by just simply enrolling in a standalone PDP.
Yep.
Kick you back to original Medicare Part A and B, and then you can go forward with your Medicare Supplement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So one of the things just on that Medicare Supplement piece that I want to make sure that agents are real clear on, if I were you and I was looking to make that move, consumer in an MAPD looking to go to original Medicare in a standalone drug plan, I would advise that you make sure you get an approval on that Medicare Supplement product first.
Yes, 100%. That's anytime that I have an agent who's asking, hey, I've got this person who's on a Medicare Advantage, wants to flip over to a Medicare Supplement, because we have that a lot during the AEP. It's just, yeah, you can absolutely do that. They can, move into a PDP. However, definitely get the approval from the Medicare Supplement plan first before you do anything else. Because if you get denied from that Med Sup through underwriting, then you're kind of up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah. Well, you still got original Medicare, but
Correct.
with no cost protections in terms of, you can just keep getting hit with that Part B coinsurance forever and ever and ever. That's not a good situation.
Right.
I can tell you so many times from the Medicare Supplement business I've written, and I'm sure all of you agents that write Med Sup business, you probably experienced this, that you're with your client on the MAPD appointments, and maybe based upon their drugs or just kind of interacting with them, you think how healthy they are until you go through the underwriting questions.
Right.
And then even when you go through the underwriting questions, like you might ask the consumer, do you have this medical condition? Do you have this one? Do you have this one? You go through those knockout questions. It's no. And then all of a sudden, like they do a script check or a MIB on the underwritten Med Sup. It's like, wait a minute, this person has atrial fib. They've had like 2 mini strokes in the last 2 years.
Right.
And the person, the client will be like, I don't know, mini stroke. What are you talking about? I just got lightheaded and fell down the stairs. Oh, well, that was because you had a mini stroke.
Right. Yeah. The agents can't do, you can only answer the questions that are on the application. You can only write down what the client tells you. But at the end of the day, the carriers, if it's going to be an underwritten case, they're going to do their own due diligence to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Yeah. So for agents out there, just to reiterate, if you're looking to make that move, MAPD to original Medicare and a standalone drug plan, get the Med Sup application approved first. So now let's jump into, just very quickly, you as the agent. What is it that you can do during the OEP? And you can obviously facilitate all these enrollments. Like there's some special election periods where agents aren't allowed, which still doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you're okay with an agent helping for AEP or OEP or initial enrollment, why do we have some of these, special election periods the agents can't help with? So does it make sense? But you can take those apps, you can use the OEP election. But the most important thing is you cannot specifically market to the OEP. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So when we typically send out mailers or postcards or anything to get a client to contact us, we're talking about, hey, what can we do to help you with your Medicare benefits? If your mind is set to the point of, hey, it's OEP, let me just send out a mailer to all of these clients saying, hey, you've got one more chance to enroll using the OEP. You can't do that. You can't mention anything about the open election period for any of your marketing pieces or any of the like sales events that you're necessarily doing. You don't want to say specifically, it's the OEP, you have one more chance, and I'm the guy to help you out with that. You really want to stay clear of that. Now, there's certain instances where you can talk about the OEP, and that would be in the confines of like an educational seminar where you're just reviewing the different types of enrollment periods that consumer may have, whether it be, hey, when you first turn 65, this is your open enrollment period, and every year thereafter, during October through December, you'll have your Medicare Advantage enrollment period, and then from January to March, that is called the OEP, and that's where a Medicare Advantage client can make one more decision before the end of March. But as long as it has to be, anytime that you talk about the OEP, can't be marketing specific, but it can be in context of an educational seminar, but everything has to be surrounding that educational premise.
Yeah, this is just me being on the soapbox for about a half a second in regards to this. I can't stand CMS in regards to this. So, hey, CMS, if you're watching, I can't stand you specific to this item, okay? So why is it, CMS, that you create an enrollment period to help consumers who may not be in the most appropriate plan, but you won't let anybody tell them about it? Like, I mean, it's senseless to me. It's almost like, I know I used this analogy the other day on another one of our episodes in regards to something, but it's like being halfway pregnant.
Sure.
It's like you want to give consumers the ability to make this move, but at the same time, agents, don't tell them about it.
Right, and it's so weird because we're literally coming off of a period in which it is kind of like the Wild West, where you can make any change that you really wanted to. And all of a sudden during OEP, it's like, all right, let's put the brakes on now. Now I don't want you telling everyone about the open election period that they're able to go through. So it's just, it's bizarre.
Yeah. So, but you can get out there and market. I would suggest, kind of just generalized changes in Medicare, access benefits that are eligible to you, those types of generalized lead pieces. And then once you get those consumers on the phone, determine, are they an appropriate product? And go from there.
Exactly.
So, this is going to be a new thing on Near and Far, because I'm super angry about something.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I wanted you on this morning because you always kind of had this calming presence.
Sure.
But I'm in grenade mode in my brain. So that's why we've got, Ryan with the grenade and the explosions behind me. So I am super, super fired up about distributors, other colleagues of ours in the Medicare market, who are out telling agents that the AEP has been extended and that there's a new COVID SEP. Hey guys, heads up, there is no extension to the AEP. The AEP was over on 12/7. It was over Monday. It's still over. Oh, and by the way, there is no new COVID SEP. It's all fake news. Now, a lot of times when prominent people in our country say it's fake news, it's not really fake news. But this is fake news, guys. Are you hearing all of this craziness? Because it seemed like yesterday, I'm at home sick, I'm trying to work from my couch, I got my laptop, and my phone is blowing up. I'm seeing email, actual written communications from other distributors talking about the AEP being extended and there being a new COVID SEP.
I have yet to see anything in writing yet, but I have had numerous phone calls about, hey Josh, I've been having these questions, and I've been hearing, some information in the street, or from my other agents, or from carrier reps saying, hey, there's a whole new COVID-19 SEP, and I have not seen or heard anything. And the only thing that I can tell my agents is, you can't believe what you don't see in writing from CMS. Unless CMS or someone that has an affiliation with the governmental program is saying, hey, here's the actual SEP, here's all the details, I'm not believing anything. Because the last thing that I want to do is, right when it had to have been around March, when the original COVID-19 SEP got around, we had 2, or potentially even 3 or 4 carriers that went out and said, here are the COVID guidelines as per us, the carrier, and here's the rules and regulations for that. And then it turned out, 2-3 weeks later, they had to retract everything back, bring it back. Oh, we made a mistake because CMS didn't outline the rules. We just assumed. Yeah. So, you can't...
Oh, I can remember us having those calls, when we were all doing work from home, and I'm sitting at the island of my kitchen, we're doing Zoom calls with everybody's video, and we're all talking, we're hearing this, and I just kept saying, at least from my perspective, and I have the benefit of being connected with NAHU.
Sure.
The National Association of Health Underwriters. And I was really honored to be asked to serve on their Medicare FMO panel. But we're talking to John Green and Janet Troutwine and the rest of the people at NAHU in the spring
Right.
about, hey, we got a communication from this carrier. Hey, we got a communication from this carrier. And they're like, yeah, CMS hasn't authorized anything. And like it was difficult because there's so many of us in this business that want to rush to be first.
Sure.
Just like CNN and Fox News and the rest of them, they want to be first with the news. But you got to be right, and that's the thing that, like I said, with the grenade logo, because that was where my brain was at yesterday, was just like it drives me crazy because if you communicate this information poorly to agents, you're putting them in harm's way.
Right.
They're going to go out and take an app or advise a client a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's like,
right.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a potential CMS violation. It's a potential, complaint against the agent. And then the last thing an agent wants to do is put their license in jeopardy because they got bad information from a colleague, a carrier, or their FMO.
Yeah. So let's just recap real quick on the COVID SEP, just so that everybody's super clear. First and foremost, the AEP is not being extended. No extension to the AEP has been announced, and from what I'm hearing from my contacts at NAHU, there is not one that is imminent. CMS is not feeling like that's appropriate. Secondly, the COVID SEP that was in play ran from March 31st through June 30th. So I'm going to use the Ryan magic here. March 31st to June 30th. And guess what? It's not June 30th anymore, so it's gone. It's over. There is no more COVID SEP. Now, one thing I would tell you, and you've certainly been around this business long enough to know this, that at all periods of time, like it doesn't really matter, the CMS provides for an extenuating circumstances, SEP, for a multitude of reasons. My broker told me bad information. There was some sort of issue with my app, like those types of things.
For sure.
That a consumer can go and apply for, but it's not something the agent can go out and just write SEP COVID, and moving on.
Yeah, there are case by case bases that you can go to 1-800-Medicare or contact your local government official and seeing what they can do for you. But like you said, it's nothing that an agent could just go out there and start writing COVID SEPs or different types of SEPs on an application.
Yeah. So I just had to go through that today because I was getting upset because I'm thinking about the agents we work with out in the field, and they're getting these other communications from other distributors, many of whom are legit distributors. I mean, they're not, they're very professional organizations, but they're putting out this information that just drive me crazy. At the end of the day, I just felt like we had to get into that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one wants to put, especially when I'm working with our top-level distribution partners who have numerous amounts of agents in their downline. The last thing that I would want to do is provide them false information. They disseminate that onwards down, and then you have a huge problem. Yeah. I'd rather always, hey, let's just be safe. Let's wait until we hear something official from CMS before we jump to any rash conclusions.
Yeah. So last question for you before we close out the episode today. Let's imagine that Santa Claus is watching our episode today, okay? And you've got the ability to ask Santa directly right here on Near and Far, ask him for the one Christmas present that you really, really want.
Does this have to be insurance related?
No.
I was like, well, do I ask for some lenience on OEP rules?
No, if this was insurance related, I'd say, Santa, I want 3,000 more apps tomorrow. No, I'm talking Santa Claus is bringing you a present. What would you ask for?
If he could fit it down through the chimney, Kristen and I, my wife, we're completing our basement right now. So it's kind of semi-finished when we bought it, but we're installing new carpet, we're putting in ceiling and everything. But the one thing that is still on our Christmas list is we want one of those electrical fireplaces that also counts as a TV dashboard.
Okay.
But it also has got Wi-Fi built in, so you can just turn it on when you're upstairs to warm up the basement and keep it all nice, warm and cozy when it's time to head on down.
Wi-Fi enabled fireplace.
Yeah, turn it off and on whenever you like,
That's
right
awesome.
from the comfort of your phone. Yeah. How about you?
So this is just a little thing.
Yeah.
But I was out, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago at this restaurant, Bridges and Bourbon. If you're ever in Pittsburgh, It's right in the cultural district. They've got some really good apps, and the bourbon selection is amazing. So if you're a bourbon person, like I'm a bourbon person, you would love it there. But they had, you know, when you're drinking bourbon glass at a nice restaurant or a nice bar, they have the big cubes.
Yes.
Okay. They had them where they were stamped with the logo of the bar. It was like the B&B with the bridge on it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the coolest thing I've never. I mean, I've seen like those Star Wars Death Star ones.
Yeah.
But like that custom stamp, I was like, that's so cool. So like if Santa Claus brought me like a, you know, custom, however you do that, with like, you know, BK on there, like I'd love to have that in my house. It was just really cool looking.
So is it like whiskey stones where they're just like stones that are chilled, or are these like ice cubes that are
No,
molded?
I think that it's actual ice. It's
cool.
It's not the stones, because I've seen the stones. The stones are cool. But no, it's actually like I guess there's a form, and you pour the water in it, and put it in the freezer, and it was really good. It wasn't kind of like diffuse or kind of hard to see. Like it was pressed in there really nicely. So
That's interesting.
yeah. So Santa Claus, if you're watching, I would love that, and let's see if we can hook up the Wi-Fi enabled fireplace for Josh as well. So yeah, it was kind of cool doing this on a Friday.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, today is Friday, December 11th. We want to thank you for joining us. We will be back with you on Near and Far Tuesday, December 15th at 7 a.m. This is Josh, I'm Bill, and this has been Near and Far. Thanks for joining us. Take care.